Yoru12 asked me to create a Storm Knight that uses polearms, and I thought this was a great time to redo my terrible Dragoon video. As a huge Final Fantasy fan, I was super excited for this chance. I love Dragoon and the Dragoon class in any Final Fantasy game. I mained it in 11 and 14. But with a loud twist, we created the Storm Knight. This is a thunder-based Dragoon polearm master that uses thunderous smites and other elemental abilities to augment his gigantic polearm attacks. Even with a long journey down fighter, there's tons of magic to augment our indirect and direct attacks, using enhanced leap to increase our brutal jump ability, swinging a thunderous smite to hit a critical hit that will also trigger a divine smite. We'll leap into the sky and crash down on everyone, having them fall down, giving us more of an advantage. My biggest problem is I kept leaping so far away from the party that they just stopped following me. Yoru12's pick was neck and neck with Percy Jackson, to the point where after this, I'm gonna make Percy Jackson. Don't worry, I got tons of comments, that one's on the way. But especially if you try it, I bet you're gonna be pleasantly surprised on how dope this build actually is. There'll be chapters below if you wanted to skip around, and I'll see you guys in a bit. The first few levels are actually pretty easy. We're going to take fighter for quite a bit. Our first level though, we're going to make sure we pick the two-handed weapon fighting style. This is going to make sure that we don't roll 1s and 2s on our damage dice with this big ass halberd. Second level opens up action surge, which is super dope. Every short rest we get another action. Third level, I'm going to do something here that most people would never do. I am going to pick champion. The champion subclass does a few things for us. Immediately it drops our critical threshold to 19, which is always something that you're gonna want when you have some kind of paladin subclass. Making sure your divine smites or any other kind of smite hit critical is very, very crucial to doing huge damage. And at its 7th level, once we get there, we do get an ability called Remarkable Athlete, which is going to increase our jumping speed by 3 meters or 10 feet. It also does a bunch of other stuff for some checks, in case someone tries to shove you and you don't happen to have athletics specialized. 4th level, we get our first feat, and we're going to pick up the Great Weapon Master feat. This is going to be basically Sharpshooter, but for big, heavy weapons. It'll take a -5 penalty to our hit rolls or our attack rolls, while giving us an additional 10 on our damage. Additionally, we can use our bonus action for a free hit if we happen to down a target. And after this, we'll get to the level we've been racing through fighter for, level 5. That way we have second attack. Second attack does what it says, we can attack twice. Here is where I spin off into Paladin. First level Paladin gives you an option between 3 different oaths. It's all up to you personally. None of these oaths is anything in particular for this build. I went with Vengeance, but that was just for additional radiant damage. You can do whatever one you want. You can also break it immediately if you'd like to take Oathbreaker. We're really only here to grab the second level in Paladin, which unlocks Paladin spells and our Divine Smites, and we get another fighting style. I suggest just taking Protection. As long as we have armor, we'll get an additional AC. Paladin spells at this level could be very, very handy. There's one in particular though that I was gunning for, and that is Thunder Smite. Thunder Smite does 2d6 thunder damage and launches them backwards. We're going to use this as our main attack spell, but because Thunder Smite is a strength save, and you're going to find a lot of people who are pretty good at strength saves, I would also make sure I pick up Wrathful Smite. Wrathful Smite is going to make your target feared, which makes all their attacks on you disadvantage, and on yours advantage towards them, but it's also a will save. So any kind of large tinky enemy you're fighting, this might be the better option. From here, the next level I would take would be level 6 in Fighter, unlocking another feat. We'll use this as an ability score increase to increase our strength. Now, ability stats wise, I would make sure I start off with a 17 strength flat out. Next, I would have my Constitution and my Charisma both be at 14. We're going to use our Charisma for a lot of our Paladin things, and Constitution is just going to be something necessary to be on the front line. From there, I would make sure my Dexterity is 12, and then I would, your choice, dump either Intelligence or Wisdom and make the other one 10. Remember, if you dump your Intelligence, you can always wear the Warped Headband of Intellect to make it a 17 for the purpose of any kind of save that you want to make sure you gas through it just fine. Then I would swoop up another level of Fighter, making us a 9th level character, and now we should be entering the 3rd act of the game. My next level here, our 10th level, I would actually pick Sorcerer. Storm Sorcery is going to give us a few things. Spells wise, we're going to make sure we take Shield and Enhanced Leap. Shield will give us a reactionary +5 to our AC when we need it. Remember, we do want to save our spell slots for Smite, so, you know, make sure it's used as needed. And Leap can be casted ritually outside of battle. I've got a trick for that, don't worry. I'll show you when we get to the shoes. Cantrips, who cares? I would actually consider taking True Strike just because we're going to augment it with a meta magic that does make it kind of useful, but it really doesn't matter. But our next level in Sorcerer gives us additional spell slots and meta magic. I would suggest grabbing Extend. Extend spell doubles the duration for certain spells, and a lot of our smites can be extended. Thunderous Smite can be extended, Wrathful Smite can be extended, Searing Smite can be extended. All that can last way longer using this meta magic. And for our last level, I would take up our 8th fighter. That way we could sneak in another ability score increase, or you can get kind of funky with it. Sentinel is also a very good feat idea. This stops any kind of person who is running away from you with an opportunity attack. It also allows you to attack someone who is currently attacking a friendly creature of yours that's near you. Last time I did this build, I used Sentinel and Polearm Master to increase the range that I could Sentinel stop people. There's also a variant to this that could prove to be incredibly strong, just different. Instead of taking Sorcerer levels, you take Cleric levels. Taking Tempest Cleric gives you the ability called Destructive Wrath. Destructive Wrath will make all your Thunder or Electricity moves hit with max damage. Some of you might remember I used this in my Thor build to just start one-shotting bosses, and if a whole build is dedicated around Destructive Wrath and Thunderous Wrath, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. But as powerful as it is, you will only be able to do it once, and then you'll have to take a long rest. So, kind of a win some, lose some. But you're totally welcome to try it, and matter of fact, I suggest you try it at least once. It's pretty fun. As far as equipment goes, there are tons of polearms and pikes and glaives and halberds for you to use. The first one I suggest playing with is Sorrow. You get Sorrow from saving the Tieflings. This is a glaive that turns your bonus action into a modified Thorn Whip. It's pretty sick, and in the beginning of the game, you're not doing much with your bonus action, and this will help you do tons of damage, and it yanks people off cliffs, so definitely play with this. After finishing with the Underdark and running into the Crash, I would then replace it with the Skin Burster, which you can get right at the end. This stacks up something called Force Conduit, which acts as some kind of barrier that knocks them prone and does force damage. The Harmonium Halberd is also a really good choice. It increases your strength by 2, but does drop some other scores, which you don't really want below a -1 already, so the +2 damage though is very, very helpful, especially with Great Weapon Master. We're gonna need the additional 2 attack, so. But my favorite halberd is just around the corner in Act 2, called the Halberd of Vigilance. You can purchase this from the Bugbear Merchant in the Moonrise Towers. This, besides doing additional d4 of force damage, it gives you a +1 to your initiative bonus, and all of your opportunity attacks are then made with advantage. I would use the heaviest split you can find until you can find the flawed Helldusk armor. It's really, really, really helpful. It also does additional fire damage to anyone who attacks you, and decreases all piercing damage by 1. I was using the flawed Helldusk gloves for damage just while I was playing with it, but the gloves of the Underdog are the best choice, especially early game, for someone with Weapon Master like this. You can find it in the treasury at the Goblins camp. These give you advantage to all your melee attacks as long as you are attacking or being attacked by 2 different enemies. As for rings go, I went with the Strange Conduit ring. It does additional psychic damage as long as you're concentrating on a spell. But every time we use one of our smites, it does hold concentration, so it's just additional damage every time we swing one of those out. There's a pair of equipment that I really, really love using together at the beginning of Act 3, and that is the Ring of Regeneration and the Horns of the Berserker. The Horns of the Berserker is going to add a +2 to all my attack rolls as long as the creatures have already been hurt. It's also going to add necrotic damage to our weapon attacks, and it might give us necrotic damage in return as long as we, don't hit someone. But the Ring of Regeneration gives us 1d4 healing right at the beginning, so, no problem. But the very most important thing to this entire build are the shoes. Under the bridge, down the shore, through the caves, you'll find these after you deal with an altercation, and these are pretty sick. First off, if you don't have armor, which we will definitely have armor, they give you a +1 to your armor class and your saving throws. But regardless, it increases our jump and it gives us Brutal Leap, which replaces our jump. And every time we land, all enemy targets around us in that area have to make a save or fall prone. Now we can live our Dragoon fantasies fully out while landing from a huge dive, knocking everyone prone, hitting them with a huge thunderous smite, critting it because our ratio is so low, then triggering a divine smite to stack on top of it. It's absolutely perfect. These boots kick so much ass. I use them on tons of builds, not only if they wear armor or shields or not. This additional jump feature is totally sick and should be abused constantly. But we're gonna break it even further by ritually casting Leap on ourselves to make the radius of our jump so incredibly far and so incredibly deadly that it's just ridiculous at this point. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you liked it, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe if you could. But if not, hey, well, maybe next time. Drop a comment on what you think my next build should be. We vote on them in the community page, which will be moving to our Discord. So make sure you follow the link in the description so you can join that. And I'll see everyone around. Okay, thanks, see you, bye.